Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Conquerors Crew. I have an awesome guest today. She has done this 20 years in this industry, and it's something that we all do every single day. Some of us even take it for granted. Hopefully, that's enough for a cliffhanger for you. But first, before we get into our guest, I got to talk to you guys. I have to just tell you about the Conquer Crew pillars. And the first one that we have with the Conquerors Crew is hope. And that stands for helping other people excel. And we think that if you don't have hope, you don't have nothing. And, through my cancer journey, that kind of became the thing. I knew if I had a little bit of hope that I could keep going. And when I didn't have any, I lost my way. So that's one of our pillars. And then the next one is grit. Okay, and that one has a few things that it stands for, and the G is for grace, right? And I'm not talking about the kind of grace that you give someone else when they make a mistake. I'm talking about quit being so hard on yourself. Give a little grace to yourself, man. And just a little friendly reminder: the R is for resilience. And I've had cancer 3 times, and the hip left me handicapped and all that. People are like, Trent, I could never do what you've done. Yes, you can. We all of us are human beings, and we rise to the occasion. But you can't expect yourself to run an Ironman the first day you start training. So we also have some of the inherent qualities inside of us, but they do have to be worked on. They have to be, expanded. And so you start small like anything else. And we all know that nothing's worth anything unless you do a bit of hard work to get it, right? And the I is for integrity. And, it's very easy to have integrity going like, hey, you're breaking the rules. But the integrity I'm talking about is the kind where if something's on your mind, it's 3:00 in the morning, you look at the mirror and are you being honest with yourself about it? Are you having integrity with yourself? And the last one is T, and it kind of works into what our show is today. Teachable. I believe that until the day you get here, until the day you leave, that you should remain teachable. And you know what? This has happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you. When you get a little cocky, you get knocked off your high horse. And it seems like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And the last one, hope, grit, and no quit. Those are 3 pillars. If it's your first time here, I hope one of those resonate with you. If you come every week, you probably needed a reminder because it's hump day and it's the middle of the week, and I don't know what kind of week you're having. Ruth Rumack, how are you today? She is the creator of the Yak Pack comics. She is a reading instructor. She's got 20 or so staff that works for her all over Canada, if I'm right there. And welcome to the show, Ruth. Awesome to have you. Never had a reading coach on the show before, but tell us about it. Tell us what you do.
I'm glad to be the first. I'm happy to be the first.
Yeah.
Doing great today. I'm really happy to be here also. It's wonderful. I mean, I've spent 30 years developing my skills, and what you talked about, your pillars are really, really strong pillars. I like it.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Let's see here. We have a couple of comments in here. I'll be honest, guys. We're running a little late. I had a wardrobe malfunction, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay. Guys have them too. Okay. So that's that. And we've got, as the podcast started, I'm in the waiting room. Yes, we're live. I'm just going to go ahead. Yes, we are live. And you're not live on Facebook. I think we should be. If we're not, let us know, and I'll take a look at that. I am a one-man band, so I manage all the social media, the interviewing, the lighting, the camera, the audio, everything at once. So, I'm kind of like an octopus at times. Anyways, guys, I'm excited about the show because we all have to read. If you don't know how to read, you are in trouble. And I have actually known a few people throughout my life that didn't know how to read. And do you know how smart and how they have to shift things and manipulate things. And they are actually smarter than people that can't read because they find a way to get you to read and tell them what they need to read, right? Have you had any people like that in your course? Because you mainly start with children, right? Is that it?
Well, my practice is mostly with school age children, so as young as 3 all the way through to end of high school or even university. But many of my students have come to me actually believing that they were incapable of reading, and
Right.
believing something about themselves that absolutely was not true. They may
Right.
have believed that they were dumb. They may have believed that they were incapable, that they would never learn to read. But quite quickly, my work began as intervention, reading intervention. But over time, what I've really realized and witnessed is something much bigger, which is the fact that when repeated difficulty shapes identity. And it's
Ah,
that
yes.
extraordinary transformation that can happen when a child or an adult finally experiences the right kind of support. And therefore, they start to gain confidence and be able to succeed even further.
I love it. I love it. I love it. This is what the Conquerors Crew really is all about. Now I jumped into it a little quick. Let me back up, and let some of my southern roots come out. And you know, where this is kind of how we are all in the South. Well, where are they from? What do they have brothers and sisters? Like, where do they grow up? How in the heck are they like a reading coach now? So just give us a little bit of background about who Ruth was growing up, where you're from, where you live now. I know you're in Ontario, Canada now, and
Hmm.
that's pretty cool to me, just right up the road from us. And so, tell us a little bit about who Ruth is.
Well, Ruth Rumack is a lovely lady who lives in Toronto, Canada. I went to school for psychology and for teaching, so I have my teacher's certificate, my teaching degree, and my psychology degree. And when I first started in the field of teaching, I'd worked with kids all my life. I love kids. I cannot get enough of them, and I do have two of my own. One is a teenager, one is an adult, and he just got married, by the way. So there's a
Oh,
little tidbit,
congrats!
very exciting.
Cool.
And so when I first started my practice, fresh out of university, I was a little disappointed because there was what was called a hiring freeze in Toronto, which meant that
Okay.
the school boards were not hiring new teachers. They had way too many people who wouldn't retire, and there was no room for the newbies. So after working with children for so long, I thought, well, I'm not giving up on my teaching career. What else can I do? So I started working at a community center, and I was running their after school programs and their summer camps and their winter camps and all kinds of whatever was to do with kids. It was through me at the community center. And because of that, the community started to know me and kept asking me, but you're a teacher, right? So could you work with my kid on the side? And they're having some difficulty with this. Could you help them
Okay.
with their homework? So I started a practice really out of my apartment, a tiny 2-bedroom apartment. And I would have kids coming in after school. I had a big white couch. And when the day that my student's black pen exploded on my white couch was the day that my husband said, I think you need a space of your own. And I went, what, really? And he said, yeah,
Cool.
this is not just an after school thing. This is something that you're passionate about and you need to do more of it. So I found a small space and started seeing students in a small space. And then I had an auxiliary space that I invited other teachers to work with me as well. And from that small space and one teacher at a time, we grew and we outgrew one location and then another and then another. And now we're at a space, we've got about 3,000 square feet. We see students on a regular basis. It's all one-on-one. I have 20 plus teachers that are full-time teachers that work for us, with us. Not only do they work with our students one-on-one, but they also design curriculum and keep the publications going. And really, we've taken the idea of tutoring and put it on steroids. So we're not tutors,
Cool.
we are one-to-one academic specialists, really.
Ooh, I like the way that sounds. That sounds fancy and real. Cool. Hey, can I ask you just one thing? Technical question on the side here. Do you have any other programs running on your computer besides the StreamYard or anything? I'm getting quite a bit of delay on my side, and just curious if you have any extra windows, if you can close those. If you
I
do,
will.
cool. If you
I
don't, well, then we'll just keep going.
I
Um,
will close them all. There we go. That's it.
because
That's all I got.
sometimes, the pipe's only this big, and it all's trying to fit through at the same time. So, cool. Anyways, that is super cool. Um, and you have the entrepreneurial spirit, and where do you think you got that kind of spirit and drive from?
I'm laughing because you'll see comments from Sue Rumack, who happens to be my mother, my biggest supporter, my biggest fan
That's
always.
so cool. So cool.
And you asked where that entrepreneurial spirit came from, and it was really from her and my dad. My mother has reinvented herself. I cannot tell you how many dozens of times. All the way from working as a secretary and then having designing children's clothes and having clothing stores, and now she's in the spiritual and intuitive and coaching, life coaching world. So if I want to look at an example of somebody who has grit and who has hope
Yeah.
and who has all of the pillars that you talk about, that's got to be my mom.
What a compliment. Mom, you're so cool. That's awesome. I mean, I there are not a lot of my guests where their parents come on and
Mm.
support them like this. I think it's cool. Sue, you're cool. Um, I may talk to you after the show and ask you to come on and be a guest sometime if you
You
wouldn't
should
mind,
do it.
because I can already tell that you have some wisdom to depart on some of us that need it. And now, is your family like originally from Canada? You got several generations of Canada, before you.
Yeah, it's a funny thing in Toronto. There are immigration. There are a lot of people that come through Toronto, not only from from other provinces in Canada, but from the whole world. It's a pretty global community here, which is pretty cool. But strangely enough, myself and my husband have both grew up here. Our parents both grew up here, and even back to grandparents. Half of my grandparents came here. Either they came as little children or they were born here. So long
Wow,
time in Canada. Yeah.
that's cool. That's cool. Now, this is not a political show, and I'm not turning it into that and going down that road. But I'm curious. How is the business landscape and running a business been, since you've been doing this quite a while? Has it changed? Has it come more difficult? Regulations, etc. Are they trying to get in your business and you just want to teach kids how to read?
So true. It's so true. You know what? Regulations aren't so bad because I'm an independent entrepreneur. I'm not part of a school board. I actually, that gives me a lot of leeway in order to not be political and not have to follow what the school board is doing. And in fact, for most of my career, I was doing the opposite of what the school board was doing because it just wasn't working. So, there are issues. I mean, Canada and the United States, we have very similar situations. We've got funding cuts. We've got teachers who don't have enough resources. We don't have enough professional development. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And that was one of the reasons why I created the Ruth Rumack's learning space method or theory the way that I did, which was we wanted to cut through all of that red tape, let's just call it,
Okay.
and be able to give kids what they needed at the time that they needed. And
Okay.
so that's been a big part of the way that we've built our business. And just a shout out to my husband, who is the CEO of the company also. We've been working together for a good 20 years, and it's had its ups and downs, but definitely there's nobody I would trust like him. And it
Wow.
allows us to really move forward in a way that we wouldn't be able to do if we were hemmed in by, bureaucracy, let's say.
Right. Right. Gosh, I have a couple of questions. So, um, what kind of parents or students come to you to is it really just like to learn how to read? My kid has a condition, or they're not doing well in school, or they don't have any confidence in reading, and what are the reasons that people come to Ruth? Because they're not getting it at school, right?
Right. So, I mean, there are many, many, many different combinations and variables. I would say many of our students come to us because they've already been diagnosed with a learning challenge. It could
Okay.
be something like dyslexia. It could be a nonverbal learning disability. It could be somebody who is on the autism spectrum. It could be a whole host of things. That's one way that a student will come to us because they're recommended by a psychologist or by a teacher or by a principal. Or another professional. Another way that a student would come to us would be because they're struggling for some reason. They don't know why they're struggling, but they are not being able to keep up with the curriculum. And we see all students for all subjects. So reading, writing, math, executive functions, you name it, we do it. And usually we find that it's not just a difficulty in one area. A difficulty is going to spill over to other areas too. So
Yeah.
when we sort of fix the problem in one area, the other areas are going to blossom as well. So we
Wow.
see students with all kinds of diagnoses, and many students who have no diagnoses, and we see students who just want to get ahead. They know they feel that they could be doing better, so they come to see us too.
That's cool. That's cool. How do people, I usually kind of ask this more towards the end, but hey, it's all good. How do people find Ruth Rumack and her reading business curriculum and things? I mean, yeah.
So there are a few ways you can find us. One of them is on the academic side, it's ruthrumack.com. That's the website. You can find all about our academic programs.
Cool.
And then if we're talking about the Yak Pack, which is our comics that teach kids how to read, that's you can find that at the Yak Pack Comics. On Instagram, you can find them on Amazon, and you just type in the name, the Yak Pack Comics and Phonics, and it'll come right up.
That is so cool. I love the rhyming thing too. Now, can people buy these books on Amazon, or
Hmm.
Barnes and
Absolutely.
Noble, and okay, so they can do that. Now, do you do online tutoring, so to speak, as well?
We do. That tutoring is a bad word around us. It has
Okay,
negative
okay,
connotations. However,
cool. Tell us why. Tell us about it.
I would love to. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Tutoring to me, and there are lots of tutors out there, and I'm not disrespecting anybody for what they're doing at all. For the work that we do, we really look at it in a very deep and holistic way. So we're
Cool.
not just looking, my idea of a tutor is somebody who helps you with your homework or a specific issue or a project, or, gets you through from point A to point B. The work that we do is
Okay.
much deeper, and we're really looking at the whole child. We're looking at the diagnosis, if there is a diagnosis. We're looking at all the pieces that are fit together. We're very curious, and we want to dig deeper to find out what's really going on for that student.
Okay.
And when we talk about the work that we do, we talk about it through either academic support or sometimes even academic therapy, where we're trying to get to the root of the problem and give that student a really strong foundation so that they can build from there to be successful academically.
Do you have maybe like kind of like an evaluation exam, or something that the kids, like the kids take, or that you kind of have like an intake process
Mhm.
where you kind of figure out, the parents have told us that this is what's going on, but we objectively bring them in and we evaluate it and go like, okay, maybe they've been diagnosed with this, but we think that this is kind of the underlying thing. Do you know what I'm asking, right?
Absolutely. The original conversation, or that initial conversation, is really, really important. It's that parent dumping on us all the things that they have noticed, that they've been told, that they see, that they're experiencing. And we take copious notes, and we want to really understand where that student is coming from. So that's our first step. That parent makes that initial call, and we have a nice full conversation with the parent. Then from there, we would book an assessment, and that assessment is a dynamic assessment. So we're going to be looking at let's say they're coming for reading and for writing, and for maybe executive functioning skills. So we're
Okay.
going to do a standard set of diagnostic activities and look at where the baseline is. What does this child know? What are their strengths? Because we really come at it from a strengths-based perspective. And then we take that and we figure out what are the challenges, what's difficult. And then we would also pair that with any diagnoses or psychological evaluations or anything that a child has that they've already done that would help inform our programming as well.
Cool. Cool.
So we don't
That,
make it up.
what,
We don't make it up. We start,
awesome.
we
I
start with the
love it.
facts.
I love it. I love it. I think next week I'm gonna book an appointment because I think that I'm a slow reader. Really, I'm a very slow reader. Always have been.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. So I got diagnosed very late in life with ADHD,
Uh-huh.
and I never wanted to go to the doctor and have that as a crutch and an excuse or whatever. But I have always had to study 3 times harder than everybody else. I've always had to, I'm just like, what were they? What was the teacher saying? I can't remember. Like I got to go back
Yeah.
and watch the video or whatever. So I'm just, I'm kidding a little bit. But I am curious. What is the biggest? Like mainly you say kids, but what is the range of age that you help people?
All ages. We've had students as young as 2.5, all the way through to, I think that our oldest student was 76 at one point, where it was a gentleman who came, who had had reading challenges. And I think that he had also, at that point, had a stroke. And he
Okay.
wanted to learn how to use assistive technology. This is way before assistive technology, like way before cell phones or not cell phones, but smartphones. So he was looking for things that would make his life easier. He wanted to be able to read and enjoy, sending emails, reading emails. So he came to us for some assistive technology advice, and it was
Sure.
really, that was a very rewarding situation.
That's neat. I mean, have you had anybody come to you and it's just like, I have been faking it my entire life and I don't know how to read.
Hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm thinking about a student who comes to me. She came to me in grade 9, and when she was in grade 9, and really interestingly enough, so bright. And this is most of our students, extremely bright, extremely articulate, really interesting, creative individuals. But this one part is just not clicking for them. And this girl in grade 9 was an amazing athlete. She was like top of her game. She was, working towards like a professional career in athletics, I think in track and field. But she kept the secret for a really long time. And, we talk a lot about masking these days, where people are putting on a face, pretending to be something that they're not, or trying to, save face by not admitting how they're struggling. And she came to me. Her mother, interestingly enough, was a special ed teacher and had this instinct for many years that her daughter was having trouble reading. But she was so clever in masking it and hiding it that it kept slipping through the cracks. And her mother, was kept taking her to asking her teachers, "Are you sure that there's no problem? Because this is what I'm seeing at home." And the teachers were like, "No, no problem. She's doing great. Don't worry about it." But she was an amazing memorizer. So she could hear something once, she could hear her friend read the page out loud, and then be able to tell us what that was. So her comprehension was great, and her memory was great, but her actual decoding, her ability to break down the words, was very weak. And that's where we had to start. We went right back to the beginning of just consonant sounds, short vowel sounds, and we started to build that foundation. And it took about 2 years, but she, like an athlete, she powered through it, and she
Awesome.
was motivated because at first, she was really, I think, afraid to
Sure.
admit it and to
Yeah.
show her weakness.
Yeah.
But the more we gained trust between each other, and the
Yeah.
more she let down her guard, the faster her learning was coming to her. And really within 2 years, she was able to catch up and fill that gap and go on to university.
Cool. That's so cool. That's such a neat story. God, I am loving this recording today. This is just too cool. Um, God, I have a lot of questions. What is like an average student that comes to see you? How long do they work with you for?
That's a good question. I mean, some students will see us for could be a very short period of time if we're really concentrating on filling in a particular gap and there aren't any other conflicting or any other variables. So they may only work with us for 8 months or a school year. Other
Okay.
students may be with us for 2 or 3 years while they're filling the gap and closing that gap. Because the problem is that if you're not reading or you're not doing math at your grade level, and let's say you're 2 or even 3 years behind, and in Ontario, you're not identified as a struggling student unless you're 2 years behind your peers. But imagine how long it takes before you get identified and then an intervention actually starts to happen. So when a parent sees these warning signs, sees things that they think are not adding up, the student is not keeping up with their peers in a particular academic way, that's the time that a parent has to act and not wait for the school to tell them, oh, let's wait and see. Let's see what happens by Christmas. Let's see what happens by September. It's not, you're wasting time. And my big advice is if you feel as a parent that something is not right, get it checked out right away.
I
So
love it.
it,
Yep.
it could be, and then there are some students that have really quite significant learning challenges, and they start with us in grade 4 and they work with us until they graduate, and sometimes even into university too. So, it's long-term relationships that we've built.
What are kind of the top, two or three, without just having to go, deep down a rabbit hole, that students come to see you? The top three issues, would you say?
I would say reading,
Okay.
written expression, so getting their thoughts on paper,
Okay.
and math would probably be the
Okay.
top. And then you work in there what's called executive functions, which are all of these parts of working of the brain working together in order to actually get something done. Those that executive function challenges are often seen in a lot of our students with attention and focus, or ADHD, ADD, and it's really challenging. They're again smart, bright, capable, but they have a hard time putting all the pieces together and getting started, staying focused, and then working through to completion. So we work those skills into everything that we do.
Okay. And not to be redundant, but can you tell us what, someone that doesn't really what does executive function mean to a person, and what does that do? What are you doing in your brain when you
So
use
your
executive skills?
yeah, your executive functions, a lot of people like to refer to it as like the conductor of an orchestra. So,
Okay.
and there are many executive functions, like 16 different things that we're doing all at once in order to get a task from thought to completion. And those things could include being able to sequence something, put something in order. It could include understanding time management. It could include
Mm,
emotional regulation is a big one. So
okay.
keeping yourself calm, keeping yourself focused and in that calm and alert state as opposed to panicked or frenzied or just low motivation.
Cool.
Those are some of the things that are included in executive functions. And those are like key elements to being a successful student. You have to pay attention in class. You have to take some notes, or you have to remember things. Memory is a big part of executive function. You are describing everything that we see and we work with all day long, every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. Super cool. Let me ask you a little bit kind of about the business and some of that side of it. I read in the notes that you have 20 people that work under you. Is that about the right number?
Yeah, it's about that. You're 20, 25, depends
Okay.
on. Yeah.
Okay. Now, are they all over Canada, or are they international? And tell us tell us a little bit about that, and how do you choose them and decide that they can administer the Ruth Rumack reading system?
Well, we're located in Toronto, and we are currently all under one roof. Although we do Zoom, or
Okay.
not Zoom, we do online lessons. So we have a specific platform that is not Zoom that we use for our online lessons that allows us to keep things very interactive. I mean, our style of teaching is what's called kinesthetic and multimodal, which
Okay.
means that we want to involve the body and the brain. You will often see kids not just reading words on the page, but taking letters and manipulating them, moving them around. You'll see students bouncing down the halls on giant bouncy balls. You'll see them doing relay races to practice math facts. We want to keep that brain body connection going. That's part of it. The other side of it, you asked about our staff. So we do a lot of things online as well as in person. So if you're in the Toronto area, you can come and work with us in person. But we work with students all over the world. I think we've even worked with a student who was sailing around the world, and we basically taught them on their boat wherever they had internet. We did lessons. So
Wow.
our teachers are fantastic. They are all highly trained by us. Just a wonderful group of individuals who have a passion for working with students and really want to see them succeed. You talked about hope at the beginning and helping other people succeed or excel. That's
Yep.
really what we're all about.
Cool. Cool. In the news, there's a lot of this stuff, about kids and, adults and, sexual things and stuff like that. Do you background check your teachers, and do they go through a rigorous check, and there's that kind of thing going on, so that you guys know that you're the people that you're putting with students that you trust and you believe in? And I'm asking that for people that could be interested in having their students come to you, so they already know the answer to this question, right?
Always. That's number one. We also have designed a space where, even though our students are working one on one with teachers, the door to the room is fully glass, so you can see everything that's going on in the lesson all the time. And we are, you know, all of I would say many of our teachers have been with us for 5, 8, 10 years,
Wow.
and going on and more. So we're a family there, and
Yeah.
we know each other well, and we like to hang out with each other outside of our
Yeah.
lessons as well.
Yeah.
So it's I would say that there's a high degree of vigilance, but also we make sure that everybody is well vetted.
Right. So people can come to the center, and that's that. But what if there's a guy like me, right? I live in Arkansas, and I'd like, my son to he's having some trouble, and I think that I want him to, work with you, and we could solve, his some of his schooling problems or whatever. Would we do it like a book and have a couple of like online interactive kind of sessions? Is that how that would go, so to speak?
Well, usually we do the same thing. We do the parent phone call. We would take all that information. We would do an online assessment. So you would be
Yeah.
working with a live person, a live teacher, just the same way we're talking right now.
Okay.
And we use a lot of interactive whiteboards. So basically, we plan the lesson on the portal, and then we work through the lesson on the portal. If he needed specific materials, we would send those ahead of time.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And then the student like does the homework and does the stuff, and then it would just be like you kind of have a one-on-one kind of
Mhm.
class, so to speak, with the
Yeah,
with the student. And
yeah.
okay, cool.
Highly,
Cool. Awesome.
highly
Okay.
personal, personally
Are those
individual.
kind of the two ways that you work with people? Like that's kind of the online thing that people do now. And then, hey, you can come into the center and be with us and do the whole thing, as a group and all the things that we offer here at our facility, right?
Yeah, and then there are the publications. So, things
Okay.
like the Yak Pack, that we created the Yak Pack in order to give people who couldn't come into the space the same type of sequence and the same type of system that we use to teach our kids to read in person, we put it in a book. And we made it a comic
Okay.
so that everybody would love it. We took all the babyish pictures out of it, and we used a professional illustrator who created these beautiful comic books with illustrations that are all
Yeah.
hand drawn.
Yeah. Cool.
And
Show.
yeah,
Yeah. Awesome.
so much fun, so much fun. And what we wanted to do there, really what I saw a need for was material that was, I call, dignity preserving, where if you're working with a new reader, could be somebody who's just coming to reading at age 3, 4, 5, or 6, or
Okay.
a striving reader, somebody who's coming to reading later than their peers. They needed something that was engaging and exciting, but also dignity preserving. So they don't look like baby books. They're not stick figure drawings. They're
Yeah.
not 2 words on a page. They've got energy and fun and humor. The characters are wild, and they keep a kid's attention, whether they're 4 or they're 14.
Wow. How long have you had the Yak Pack? Has it been in you know online for people? When did you start the Yak Pack thing?
Well, it's been a long process between
Okay.
writing the books and having them illustrated, but I think it's about
Sure.
5 years that we've had them on the market. We had them on the market a little bit before COVID, and then when COVID hit, we were like, wait a second, people can't come in, and kids are really losing momentum with reading. Let's get them back, get them back out there, tell more people about them, so that people can start using them during COVID. So over COVID, we had a push to get them out there to have them more visible. and
Cool.
and since then we've added some titles, and we just keep talking about it, because what's better than 70,000 copies in homes and schools? 80,000 or
Yeah, I
90,000 or
love it.
100,000.
Love it. So, now is it kind of an ongoing series, or is there that there's one series, and then maybe you're working on another one? Is it an ongoing project, or have you the Yak Pack comics? This is you read the whole thing, and that's that.
Currently, there's the red pack and the blue pack. And so
Okay.
the red pack is the comics and phonics. And the phonics, if you for people who don't know phonics, it's the smallest bit of sound that we read. Phonics is all about sounds and symbols. So every letter in our English language has a sound. Sometimes it has more than one sound, which is why it can be confusing. Sometimes when you put one symbol with another symbol, it makes a completely different sound. So the way that we teach reading is a phonics based system, which means that we start with the short vowel sounds, and each book has 7 or 8 different stories, 6 to 8 stories in it, and
Okay.
we work on one skill at a time. When you
Okay.
finish with short vowels, then the next book talks about blends, which is 2 consonants coming together to make one sound. So what we've done is taken all the science-based research, all of the best practices of reading, and put them into one continuous series, so that a parent or a teacher can pick the series up, start at the beginning, work through the sequence, and make sure that they're not forgetting or missing or skipping any steps. And by the time you get through the full series, you'll be at about a grade 2 reading level.
Okay.
And the blue
Okay.
series
What
is
what
similar.
age group would you recommend the blue one and the red one? Kind of, can you give us a little bit on that?
Sure. So the blue series is called high frequency words or sight words. And, maybe when you were growing up, there was like sight words were meant to be memorized, and you had to, read the words said 50,000 times, and then, on a flashcard, and then you would memorize the words said. But we know through brain plasticity and neuroplastic science that that's not really the way that reading works. Yes, you need
Right.
lots of exposure, you need lots of mastery and practice, but it's not about memorizing the word as a chunk. It's about breaking down the parts that you know and memorizing the parts that are difficult to memorize. So the other books, the blue books, are these high frequency words where we teach 2 words at a time, and from there we put
Okay.
pictures with the rest of the words. This is just level 1, so there aren't
Cool.
you're not you're only learning 2 words at a time, and you're building your vocabulary as you go through that. So age range, you could start as young as 2.5 or 3 if your child has a good group of their consonants. They know most of their consonants. And then you start with the short vowel sounds and you start with the one red book, one blue book. And they go in tandem as you move forward and you gain momentum.
Cool. Now, will there be, a Yak Pack orange, or or is there a continuation in the Yak Pack series?
Oh,
So,
that's such a good question. So, we are currently working on workbooks that match each of these series. And we're also working on a parent and teacher course. So, that's coming out very soon, where we are going to take all of the knowledge that we have, all my 30 years of experience of teaching reading, and putting it into a video course so that people can find it and do it themselves.
cool, cool. I know from I went to a private school when I was growing up, with kindergarten and elementary and everything, and I remember learning phonics and the sounds and the symbols and recognizing it. And guys, that is truly how you learn to read. It is not like, I feel like it, the English, for example, they are memorizers, because, like, and I just give you an example, like the Thames River that runs through London, right? It's spelled Thames, you know? And hey, in
Right.
English, we all have the exceptions, right? It doesn't matter what the rule is with reading or grammar or punctuation or whatever. We always have some cotton picking exceptions, like I before E except after C, right? That whole silly thing. And that's the way it is. But I know that phonics, if you can learn that, then you learn how to put those combinations of sounds together. And I believe it, for me, that you really are teaching people the right base and skill and understanding of how to read. I compliment you for that. That's remarkable. That's really cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. 30 years of experience has taught me a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And also seeing what works and what doesn't. I mean, as an educator, I feel it's really important to be curious, always curious. Whether it's
Yeah.
curious, to know more about
Yeah.
your students, what's working for them, what's not working for them, curious about yourself as a learner, and what more do I need to know in order to be able to be more helpful. But the research is there. I mean, we've got 50 plus years of research on reading, and probably more than that at this point. And it's important to make sure that we're using the best practices and getting the best result.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Loaded question. I'll tell you now, it's a bit loaded. How are you doing working with your husband at work and at home? Do you guys ride in the same car together every
We
morning?
we only have one car, so yes.
Oh my God. So I can tell you now that you are a saint, because you have the patience of into infinity, because us men, we're knuckleheads, kind of. We are. I mean, how do you do that? I have seen couples that have started business and work together, and that's the end of the business, the end of
Yep.
the relationship, and all that. Tell us a few of the secrets and things that you learned about working with your husband every day and living with the man every day.
Well, I would say, first of all, and I am not lying about this, this is not just to blow sunshine, but I do believe that my husband is the smartest person that I know. So I have a tremendous amount of admiration for him. And at the same time, I know his weak points also. So we have a good understanding of each other. And when we first started working, I'm not the easiest person to work with all the time. I can be stubborn. I can be, I can put my foot down and believe that I am correct. But one of the things that I have learned over time, and I guess this is age, wisdom, whatever, just experience, you're not always right. And somebody else could be right. So I tell myself in moments of stress or conflict, well, he may be right also. Two people can be right at the same time. And that's one way that I help myself not get overloaded. But I think over time we just realized, where each of our strengths lie, and we really we we defer to that person in the areas that they are the strongest.
Right. Right. Now, it sounds like you guys ride to work together and you come home from work with each other, right? What if you are just really teed off with him about something, at the learning center? Do you guys have the ability to just say, "Hey, look, I left that at work," and when you come home, you can just kind of switch that off, and home life is different, and so to speak. I'm, little loaded. I admit. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I have seen most people can't do it. It's almost impossible, I think. Right?
Being an entrepreneur and living with your partner, it's 24/7. It just
Yeah.
is.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's the ups and it's the downs. And when things are challenging and difficult, whether it's, situations that come up at work, or it's situations that are business, general business related, it's 24/7. So I think for us, it's a matter of, there's a point where we just go, okay, we're just going to sit down on the couch, we're going to veg out, we're going to watch a movie, we're going to watch our Netflix show, and we're going to put a pin in this, we'll come back to it tomorrow. So,
Cool.
but it's all the time. I mean,
I
there are
know.
other entrepreneurs out there and you don't turn it off.
I know. I own my own business for 14 years and I didn't sleep a single night. Okay. I
Right.
know it is not easy to be an entrepreneur. And then on top of that, you're doing it with your husband. I mean, I know that is tough. That's got to be. I imagine it's rewarding, being exponentially rewarding, but at times it can be very hard. And I think that you have to just at times just say, hey, you know what? It's more important to continue the success of the business, or to have this department do whatever than to get my way or fight about it or whatever, right? Because
Yeah.
it sounds to me like you guys are on the same page where it's like it's ultimately what do we need to do? What's the best decision for the business, right?
For right now, exactly. I think
Yeah.
that's where
Yeah.
where it comes down to. It's not who's right or who's wrong. It's not. I think that's what you learn is you have to take your ego out of it,
Yeah.
and it's not about being right. It's
Yeah.
about moving things forward and remembering what the bigger goal is. So,
Yeah.
from our perspective as business owners, it's keeping the business moving and growing. From a pedagogical or an educational perspective, it's keeping our students moving forward and growing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
either
Now
way,
I
you
know
got to do.
no doubt there's no doubt that you're right way more than him. So would you say that you're right 80% of the time and he's wrong 20 or what?
No comment. No comment.
I'm teasing. I'm just teasing you. I'm sure. I mean, you're a remarkable person. I can tell that he would have to be as well. And it's the areas that you are really good at and responsible for, and he knows his areas that he's good and responsible for, and those kind of have to intermingle. And when they do that, man, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. Now we covered heaps of stuff. Um, is there anything that we've talked about that you would like to address, or anything that we've missed, or anything?
I think I would like to talk a little bit about identity. And,
Cool.
you were talking a lot about resilience. And I did a quick Webster dictionary, right, check for resilience. So it gave me the answer: the capacity to work through or to recover quickly from difficulty. And I was trying to put that with, students and students' identities of themselves. And I was saying at the beginning that a lot of our students come in believing something about themselves that just isn't true. And one of the things that we see with our students is that they've had a number of what they would term as failures,
Mm-hmm.
but I would look at as they just haven't been set up for success.
Right.
And my feeling is that, whether it's reading or learning to ride your bike or learning an instrument, whatever it is that's difficult, a person, and particularly a child, really needs that situation to be set up for success first, and then they gain confidence. And if they have a situation where they have that, just that little taste of success, then they'll be more likely to take the risk to try the next time. And if they have another little taste of success, then they're going to be building on that confidence as they go forward. And
Yeah.
that's really why we built these Yak Pack books, because I wanted our students to have that little taste of success right out of the gate, that they could read the first story because they knew just a few consonant sounds and one short vowel sound, and they could read the whole story. And for some of our kids, they had never done that before.
That's so cool.
And that moment of like, oh, I did it myself.
Yeah.
That's the thing that is authentic success.
I love it. I love this is I think this is too cool. Yeah, Conquerors Crew is about um an obstacle or a challenge that you've had, that someone's had in their life, and they figured out how to overcome it, and they tell us the story, and they give us the tips and the tools of what they used, and tell us a few of the pitfalls that they had. And when the listener listens to the episode and they're done, they're like, if that ever happens to me, I know how to deal with this. And
Yeah.
I think it's so important. I mean, you cannot function if you can't read. You can't. Not
It's
in this
very
world.
challenging. But I'll tell you, there are many, many, many adults in North America who are not proficient readers, who are not reading even at a grade 6 level, but again, are super brilliant, highly articulate, really creative,
Yeah.
and they've managed, they've figured it out. And we're lucky that we have a lot of assistive technology. I mean, what the power that we have in our smartphones is incredible to be able to do things when you can't read for yourself. However, what it does to somebody's identity when they're constantly having to navigate that, I think is much, much more damaging. And if we can help those kids out early and give
Yeah.
them the success early, like, how is that going to change their lives? And they are the
Yeah.
leaders of tomorrow. So we better be equipping them with all of the tools that they need to be good leaders.
Yeah. AI is the hot stuff right now. How is that integrating into your business lately? The last few years or currently?
That's a really good question. I would say, you know, I approach it with I I use it myself. I will say I use it myself for some really, to help me when I've done a lot of research and I want to compile that research. But I'm only feeding it information that I know is valid.
Right.
I'm looking to AI maybe to help me create an outline for something, but I've already given it all the notes. Or to dive deeper into something, but it's got to give me, empirical based research, something like that. So I like to put guardrails on the AI that we use. And
Yes.
I really think it's important. We talk a lot about it at the office. And how do we teach kids how to use it responsibly, as opposed to using it irresponsibly? But
Right.
at the bottom of it, we still need to know how to write a paragraph. We still need to know how to write an essay. We need to know how to discern whether something is true or not true, or has valid research behind it, or it's biased research, etc. So
Right.
I say, we're using it and we're teaching our kids how to use it, but we have to be careful how we do that.
Cool. 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 Um, anything else? Any other topics? Anything that you'd like to share with the listeners before we start to?
I would say, I think, remain curious. If you've got
Yeah.
kids in your lives that are struggling, or you have an instinct that something just isn't right, it's not meshing for them, they're not getting it right away, I would say be patient, be supportive. It's not enough just to say, you can do it, I know you can. We have to actually give them a proper scope and sequence. We have to give them the steps and a systematic way of learning something new in order for them to be successful.
Sure. Sure. Guys, Ruth is on all sorts of platforms, on social media, on Instagram, with the Yak Pack Comics, and let's see here. She's got for Ruth herself. She's on LinkedIn, and we got the RRL Store Toronto for the Facebook and the YouTube. I think probably the easiest thing to do is if you want to get in touch with Ruth, her main website, RuthRumack.com, and that's RUTH, just like Ruth, and then Rumack, RUMACK.com. Would that be the best way for people to get in touch with you,
Yep,
to find out about
definitely.
the comics, you and everything? Go ahead.
Yes, everything is on the Ruth Rumack website. And then if you want the comics specifically, you can find them on Amazon. Just type in Yak Pack Comics, or you can go through, as I said, our website and yeah, find us. You know what? The comic books, if you've got a kid who's struggling right
Cool.
now, before they go into
Cool.
their next grade, pick up the books. You're going to have them reading before the end of the summer.
Awesome. Now your YouTube, so you have a YouTube there. Is there like some samples of kind of like the learning stuff that kids would learn, or an interactive, like with anybody wants to kind of get a sample of what you do and everything? Is that the best place to do that, or is it on the website, or what do
The
you want to
website
say?
is a good place. I would say the YouTube channel has a lot of my media experience. So I do a
Okay.
lot of breakfast television, and I do a lot of
Okay.
other types of news interviews. So I'm always giving tips and tricks and strategies. So if you're looking for some good strategies, definitely check out the YouTube.
Cool. Cool. Guys, I always say this, and I remind you every time. If you've enjoyed the episode, and you have a child that you feel like is having some trouble, you have to reach out. You have to get on the website. You have to send the message, okay? Because we can't read your mind. So I know that, and you would know if you listened to 10 or 15 minutes of this, that Ruth is real, and that she genuinely cares, and that she's going to solve the problem that your kid is having. So get yourself together and put a couple line of email and contact her, and I know that she will meet you wherever you need to be. So, but we can't read your mind, so you got to send the first message, guys. Okay.
So true.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's right. It's like, oh, we don't just, we're asking everybody on the planet, right? You got to let us know where you are. That's it, and we'll come help you, and that's how it goes. So, gosh, anything as I take us out. I mean, what a cool episode recording. I think it's very educational and helpful, and what a pleasure. Really, really thankful for being on the show today.
It's really been my pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity to have a chat with you.
Yeah, cool. Just stick around for 1 second, and I'm gonna take us out, guys. I mean, Ruth Rumack, what a reading rock star we have here, guys. So, as I always say, God bless, Godspeed to you this week, and never forget that grit don't quit. We're out.